everybody, so today we're going to be continue working on the Buddha of Suburbia, and we're going to be starting subpart I, judging by the accent. So, I actually asked you for today to watch some videos. It was meant to be done in groups, so I'm very, very sorry about this, but hey, I can't do anything about it, neither can you. First of all, what you have to know is that an accent is so important in the UK. So, let's start off with the Coventry accent. I actually gave you two videos. I don't know if you remember them, if you watched them. Let's hope you did watch them. And I've lost my... No, found it. So, here we go. Let's have a quick watch again. So, I'm sorry about this. So this is a man that I found speaking with a really strong Coventrian accent.
10 examples of what we say in Coventry. We pronounce it Coventry City, dropping the T. We're fairly close to a place called Bedworth. We're like water, lager, butter. Water, lager, butter.
We call this a bath.
Are you having a laugh? Yeah, I said laugh.
Giraffe. Giraffe. In our city, we would call this a scooter.
Okay, so just to get back to this now, you're probably thinking, why on earth did she ask us to listen to this video? So, quite a few things we can say. First of all, they drop the T's. Okay? So instead of saying water, they'd say water. They wouldn't say bath or laugh. They would say bath. Or bath, when you say the TH. Laugh. So that would be pronounced with an F sound. And I also asked you, what kind of social class do you think these people belong to? So, West Midlands. So the West Midlands is like in the middle of the UK. West Midlands. And it is a really working class accent. Okay? A very strong working class accent. And I also said, why do you think that I asked you to listen to it? Now, if you want, I can drop back into speaking with a Coventrian accent, if you want. I can drop my T's and say bath and laugh, if you want. Because I'm actually from Coventry, okay? I'm from Coventry, and I try not to speak. I actually force myself to speak with a posher accent, okay? So that is really important. And actually, unless I forced myself, my mother forced me to speak. My parents forced me to speak with a posher accent. However, you will hear me sometimes, I will automatically drift back to this strong Coventry accent. Especially when I'm being a bit silly. So, yeah, I come from Coventry. However, my family, my mother and my father, always forced me to speak with a posher accent. So that is just one thing I wanted to show you about the Coventry accent. Now, the second video was about, where was it? The Cockney accent. Well, as you can see.
British English, which is what I'm talking now, by the way. More or less, anyway. So in London, we have our own accent. It's called Cockney. Now, Cockney is a working class accent that originated around the city and the east end of London. But now you'll past, Londoners tried to hide their Cockney accents when they tried to rise the social ranks. In polite society, they were mocked and shunned, and having an accent, a Cockney accent, could hold them back.
Okay, I'm just going to stop there, because I think he's actually said quite a few interesting points. Actually, I'm just going to freeze this, because you don't really need to look at them, do you? Now, he's not actually speaking. You can hear a lilt to it. You can actually hear a Cockney accent. If you listen really closely to the man, you can actually hear that he does have a Cockney accent, but it's very faint. And he said that it's very working class accent. Okay? It's also a London accent. And people in the past, they used to hide their accent. Okay? And they were mocked, ridiculed by people from higher social ranks. Moreover, if you wanted to climb the social ladder, you would put on a posher accent. You would try and speak using standard English. So that is actually really important.
But not, we're going to learn some Cockney.
So let's listen to a bit of Cockney.
A spectrum of an accent. So level 1 is just the pronunciation of words.
Okay, so people who speak with a Cockney accent, first of all, it's about pronunciation. There you can hear my Midlands accent when I say certain words. It's about pronunciation. Okay? So they pronounce words differently. Listen to a couple of examples.
And how they butter becomes butter. In Cockney, we drop the H sound entirely. So head becomes egg. Hat becomes at. Meows on the edge.
Okay, so here he says, for example, people will drop the H, and the T's. They won't pronounce the T's. For example, you'll say Ed. I've got a bloody headache here. Ed for head. You're not actually meant to pronounce the H. But if somebody said to me, I've got a bloody headache, I'll understand them. And the T, once again, just like with the Coventry accent, they will drop the T. Can I have some butter, please? Can you help me? Okay, so that's the first thing. First thing you have to know is the accent. Okay? And that will change. Now, secondly, the way they say it, the words they use will completely different. I understand it because I'm British, but for example, let's listen.
And vocabulary, which are different from standard English and not just pronunciation. You should still understand quite a lot, but it's getting difficult. Wow, the pretty girl I met in the West End is very rich.
Okay, so that's pretty easy to understand. The pretty girl I met in the West End is pretty rich. Or is very rich. Okay, now, in Cockney, that all one will say.
Good blimey, that big bird I met up west is well minted.
Okay, so minted means rich. Bird. Just imagine saying in France. Oh, Wessel. No, bird is another way of saying girl. Very well. The bird I met up in West is well minted. So you'll actually substitute quite a few words. I understand it, but there you go. Another example.
£10 for a tub of jellied eels That's ridiculous. 10 quid for a pint and a tub of jellied eels? Do me a favour.
Okay, 10 quid. Like saying a 10 balles. 10 quid means £10. Do me a favour. You're having me on. Just expressions that you'll say in London. Okay? So, it's completely... I'm not going to go all the way to the end of the video. So, once again here, with the Cockney accent, you're going to say that it is very, very working class. Nobody with a posh accent would ever speak like that, believe me. Nobody from a higher social class would speak with a Cockney accent. Okay, next video, how to sound posh. I'm not going to like listen to it all, but just a little bit.
We can work together, I don't mind, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, very well, if we must.
Okay, well, I suppose I'll represent the more modern RP, basically people who wish to show a level of intelligence or class in their speech, will generally speak as I do. And I suppose you'd represent the more archaic, old-fashioned RP?
Old-fashioned, I should wash your mouth out with soap and water.
Yes.
Thus you should begin by telling them what RP is and is not.
Okay, so RP, which is like received pronunciation, is a way of speaking. RP. When I try or when I make an effort to speak with an RP accent, I actually do speak an RP. So received pronunciation. Okay, RP means received pronunciation. It's what many teachers try. Well, they're actually taught to speak with a received pronunciation accent, which doesn't always sound very authentic. So let's get my cup of tea.
Okay, well, RP goes by many different names. Standard English, Oxford English, the Queen's English, BBC English. Well, it is true in the past BBC news reporters were expected to speak in a similar style to the Queen. They would speak very upper class. For example,
Good evening. We interrupt this programme to bring you a special news bulletin. The Germans have bombarded British shores from the air.
Okay, so it was even in this video, if you've watched it, you'll see a younger man with an older man, and the older man is speaking with an even posher accent. So you've got many different ways of talking, of calling RP. You can call it Standard English, BBC English, etc., etc. But this is a way of sounding posh. It's a way of sounding educated. Okay? So people who speak RP sound both posh and educated. Okay, so I'm not going to, you can watch the video. Educated, I meant. So, people who actually speak RP are often from, like, the upper middle class. Okay, and received a good education. And I also gave you a second video, which you can watch if you want. Claire Foy, who plays Queen Elizabeth in seasons 1 and 2 of The Crown, she actually does speak RP. And he actually says RP is another way of saying the Queen's English. Actually, the Queen's English is even posher. So it's just whatever, not that important. Now, what your accent says about you. Now, this one is really important because an accent in the UK can say a lot about who you are, and that is so important, and that you really do have to keep in mind, that in the UK, an accent says who you are. Okay? So in the UK, an accent will say a lot about who you are. Let's just listen to this one very quickly.
You go in Britain, you'll hear a regional accent. There's Cockney from London's East End.
What you're trying to tell me is that this Monica bird, she sort of like didn't go up under on this dressing up idea, is that right?
In Wales, speech tends to be breathier.
Of course, I'll be ready, here it comes. Oh, you plank, you missed it.
Up in Scotland, the accent's more guttural.
You ever tried voice recognition technology?
No.
They don't do Scottish accents.
And in Newcastle, there's the famous Geordie accent.
So people that come in with genuine belief that they can make the next book, and it's kind of sad, you know.
But over it,
Okay, they've just given up a very, I think they took the journalists, quoted like 5 accents. There are so many more. Coventry's like about half an hour away from Birmingham, and those who have watched Peaky Blinders, well, you probably put the subtitles on, didn't you? But the accents are completely different, and they're only like half an hour away from one another, the two locations. Birmingham and Coventry are literally next door neighbours. But the accents are totally different. So many accents in the UK.
in Buckingham Palace, the manner of speaking is described as plummy.
So much of this visit reminds us of the complexity of our history.
The Queen's English is known as received pronunciation, or RP, and according to a leading academic, Brits with strong regional accents experience discrimination, so are under pressure to posh up their speech in order to climb the career ladder or just make a better impression about themselves.
Okay, so that is like really important. People actually do suffer from discrimination in the UK, and it has nothing to do about the colour of your skin, your religion, no, not at all. So you've got discrimination, and which is based purely, solely on your accent, okay? And a lot of people will, as I just said, and even I do this, they will posh up their accents in order to get a better job. Now, I'm sorry if you really want to listen to a bit about my life. You don't have much of a choice. As I said, I'm from Coventry. My mum's side of the family, they're born and bred there. And they all knew that if they wanted to climb the social ladder, being working class, my mother's like very working class originally, but her and her brothers and sisters knew that if they wanted to climb the social ladder, they all had to posh it up, and which they did. Especially my mother and her sister, they worked on their accent, sound as, but not so they wouldn't sound Coventrian. You actually can say Coventrian at all. And they both ended up doing going to university and everything, and getting good jobs. But the only way they could do that was by poshing up their accent. That is so important, and I don't think you realise that as French people, because you can be like very posh in, well, not posh, but come from the south of France, come from Paris, come from Lyon, and have like strong regional accents, but received a very high, well, a good education, and come from a good family. But in the UK, that is not the case. A lot is based on your accent.
And the strawberries.
problems surrounding racism, sexism and ageism. But according to experts, accentism here is the last taboo. And in a country where class is still so divisive, where it's not just money and education that stratifies people, but also the way they talk, according to many, accentism is just another word for classism.
Okay, so I just wanted you to listen to that part, because accentism, I don't know how you would pronounce it, is not important, but it's part of all this discrimination process. Accentism, which is another way of saying classism. Okay? Now, the last video, we're just going to listen to the very first part. You're all French, so you might not realise this, but last video, just listen to the man.
Am I posh? What do you think? Chances are you've never met me before. You don't know if I went to a public school or a comprehensive. You don't know where I live. You don't know what my middle name is. You don't know if I own a pair of red trousers. All you know is how I speak, how I dress, what my job is, and how I act. But I'm willing to bet that your mind was made up about me within a couple of seconds. As Bernard Shaw famously put it in 1916, it's impossible for an Englishman to open his mouth without making some other Englishman hate or despise him.
Okay, I'm just going to stop there. But that is so true. I'm trying to find the words for it here, but I can't. He talks about comprehensive, like if you've been to public school, which means private. Okay, a public school is a private school, and a comprehensive school or state school would be public school. Okay, a bit complicated, I know. But as soon as that man talked, I knew that he was posh. I knew that he'd received a good education. And you're probably thinking, well, no, you can't say that. Yes, in the UK you can. As soon as a person opens his or her mouth, you can say what social class they're from. So, that is about it for the moment. This very first part. Now you're probably thinking, why on earth did she ask us to do that? Oh, please feel free to pause this video whenever you want, okay? Where was I? Here? Why on earth did I ask you to watch all those videos? And why are we talking about accents? Well, of course, it has something to do with the Buddha of suburbia. Please, you can press pause whenever you want, okay? Because I'm just rambling on, I'm talking, I know you miss me so much. I'm trying not to show my face because I really like my face on. Well, I like photos of myself, whatever. So of course, this has a lot to do with the Buddha of suburbia. So I keep on walking around, I'm sorry, I hope you can see everything. Maybe on a bigger screen you'll be able to see things. So, first of all, what has been happening with our friends from the Buddha of suburbia? So, I don't know if you remember, but previously, Kareem he was acting in a troupe, in a group, directed by Shadwell, or they gave him lovely names like Shag Badley, whatever. And now he's joined a new acting group led by, I think it's Matthew Pike. So he's joined a new. Before we read this, he's now joined a new acting group. okay, led by Pike. Okay, now, of course, there being a group, a troop, or whatever you want to call it, there are 6 of them, so 3 women and 3 men. 2 of them are black, all are under 30, one of them is gay, so, very diverse. It's a very diverse group, so 6 actors, very diverse. All under 30, okay, under 30, and they're from a better social class than Kareem. Okay, because you probably remember that he is from the suburbs, hence the title. Now, the rehearsals are completely different. Okay? Rehearsals, when they practice, and he even talks about them being bitchy and gossiping. They gossip all the time, and they play feely games, which means when they're just touching one another, hey? And Kareem is now in love with a girl called Eleanor. Okay? So he's got a new crush, a new person in his life. Apparently at the moment he likes women. And so Eleanor is from a very, very rich family, a wealthy family. And thanks to her, Kareem is able to climb the social ladder. Okay? What else? Eleanor's set with many people, however she refuses to sleep with Kareem, so it's more of a platonic relationship for the moment. So it's more platonic than sexual. And she has dated a man called Heater. Okay? So she dated a man called Heater. I think that's his nickname, unless his parents are very cruel, but hey. So she dated a man called Heater, who was a dustbinman, so a working class, a road sweeper, that was it, it's a road sweeper. And he, of course, is working class. So it's very paradoxical, very ironic that she should fall in love with a working class road sweeper. I don't think you can call them road sweepers anymore. I think it's politically incorrect. And before Heater, she also dated a, it was either black or Indian man called Jean, who ended up committing suicide. Okay? But she is Kareem's, Kareem is in love with Eleanor, and that is more or less it. So, I'm now going to ask you to read pages 177. In the past few weeks, circumstances are at, to page 179. I knew I'd be seeing her every day. So I'll read it with you. I'm going to pause just to make sure we've understood everything. Okay? And you will see the link to what we previously studied. So you have a drink of tea first. In the past few weeks, circumstances had made me discover what an ignoramus I was. So, ignoramus means stupid. Lately, I've been fortunate. My life had changed quickly, but I'd reflected little on it. Where I did think of myself in comparison with those in Eleanor's crowd, I became aware that I knew nothing. I was empty, an intellectual void. I didn't even know who Cromwell was, for God's sake. I knew nothing about zoology, geology, astronomy, languages, mathematics, physics. Most of the kids I grew up left school at 16 and then they'd be in insurance now or working as car mechanics or managers. Radio and TV in department stores. And I'd walked out of college without thinking twice about it, despite my father's admonitions. In the suburbs, education wasn't considered a particular advantage and certainly couldn't be seen as worthwhile in itself. Getting into business young was more important. But now I was among people who wrote books as naturally as we played football. What infuriated me, what made me loathe both them and myself, was their confidence and knowledge. The easy talk of art, theatre, architecture, travel, the languages, the vocabulary, knowing the way around the whole country, it was invaluable and irreplaceable capital. At my school, they taught you a bit of French, but anybody who attempted to pronounce a word correctly was laughed down. On a trip to Calais, we attacked a frog behind a restaurant. By this ignorance, we knew ourselves to be superior to the public school kids with their pukey uniforms and leather briefcases, and Mummy and Daddy waiting outside in the car to pick them up. We were rougher. We disrupted all lessons. We were fighters. We never carried no effeminate briefcases, since we never did no homework. Brackets, open brackets. There's actually a mistake, a grammatical mistake there. Close brackets. Where was I? We were proud of never learning anything except the names of footballers, the personnel of rock groups, the lyrics of I Am the Walrus. What idiots we were! How misinformed! Why didn't we understand that we were happily condemning ourselves to being nothing better than motor mechanics? Why couldn't we see that for Eleanor's crowd? Hard words and sophisticated ideas were in the air. They breathed from birth. And this language was a currency that brought you the best of what the world could offer. But for us, it could only be a second language, consciously acquired. And when I could have been telling Eleanor about the time I got fucked by Hairy Back's Great Dane, it was her stories that had privacy. Her stories that connected to an entire established world. It was as if I felt my past wasn't important enough, wasn't as substantial as hers, so I'd thrown it away. I never talked about Mum and Dad or the suburbs, but I did talk about Charlie. Charlie was kudos. And once I practically stopped talking at all, my voice choking in my throat, when Eleanor said my accent was cute. What accent? I managed to say. The way you talk, it's great. She looked at me impatiently, as if I were playing some ridiculous game, until she saw I was serious. You've got a street accent, a street voice, Kareem. You're from South London, so that's how you speak. It's like Cockney, only not so raw. It's not unusual, it's different to my voice, of course. Of course. At that moment, I resolved to lose my accent, whatever it was, it would go. I would speak like her. It wasn't difficult. I'd left my world. I had to get on. Not that I wanted to go back. I still craved adventure and the dreams I desired that night when I had my epiphany on Ava's toilet in Beckenham. But somehow I also knew that I was getting into deep water. After the kiss, then, I stopped in the darkened room and looked out on the street. My knees gave way. Eleanor, I won't be able to cycle home, I said. I think I've lost the use of my legs. She said softly, I can't sleep with you tonight, baby. My head's all messed up. You've no idea. It's somewhere else, and it's full of voices and songs and bad stuff. I'm too much trouble for you. You know why, don't you? Please tell me. She turned away. Another time, or as someone, I'm sure they'll be happy to tell you, Kareem. She kissed me goodnight at the door. I was not sad to go. I know I'd be seeing her every day. Okay, so now we've read that part. So this is not my room. I'm not used to. I've got these mock exams, so I do not have my room. Okay. realise. So he realises he's an ignoramus, okay? That is like the word. Okay? Not those who've watched Game of Thrones. He knows nothing. Sorry. So he knows absolutely nothing at all. Okay? It's like an intellectual void. Okay? Now remember that Karim is building his persona. This is a Bildungsroman, it's a coming of age story, which means that he's building his character. He's on a road to self-discovery, okay? So that is like really important. You should always remember that he's on a road to self-discovery. So, who am I? Where do I belong? Now, Karim's come like a long way since the beginning of the novel. However, there's still these obstacles. And one of the obstacles here, let me try and get another colour. That's an obstacle. Obstacle. Okay? Is that he doesn't know anything. Okay? He doesn't have like all the connaissance, the savoir-vivre, the education that, for example, Eleanor has received. So that is going to create a huge obstacle for Karim. He doesn't know, like he's lacking, as I said, this intellectual void. He does not know who Cromwell is. He has no idea about anything important. Neither do his parents, really, or his family. He knows nothing about astronomy, geology, languages, etc. All these things that go hand in hand with the upper class from which Eleanor belongs. Okay, so that is like really a huge... He realises for the first time that he knows nothing. And it's all his fault, really. So, now let's fill in the grid. So, good thing is you can't tell me don't wipe the board. You just have to press pause, okay? Now we have a whole passage on this. Up. Most of the kids I grew up with left school at 16. Which in the 70s, that doesn't really surprise me. So, children left school at 16. And they've been insurance now, or working as car mechanics or managers in department stores. Okay, so they all had predefined jobs. Okay? And I've worked out of college, not without thinking twice about it, despite my father's admonitions. In the suburbs, education wasn't considered a particular advantage. And certainly wouldn't be seen as worthwhile in itself. So, education, so not worthwhile. Worthwhile means the local. It's not worthwhile. Getting into business young was more important. But now I was among people who wrote books as naturally as we played football. Like I say, played football. And here they write books. What made me loathe both them and myself was their confidence and knowledge. So here they have confidence and knowledge. The easy talk of art, theatre, architecture, travel. The languages, the vocabulary, knowing the way around the whole culture, it was invaluable and irreplaceable capital. So you've got language, vocabulary, exactly, this is exactly what we saw in the video. Remember we talked about your accent, saying who you are. It's exactly that, language, vocabulary. At my school they taught you a bit of French, but anyone who attempted to pronounce a word correctly was laughed down. So they didn't work well at school. And we trip to Calais, we attacked a frog behind a restaurant, a frog being a French person, of course. We knew ourselves to be superior to the public school kids. So they're all public school, which means public school is private. But you say public, and in the UK, if you want a good education, as soon as you reach high school, which is like when you're 11, CSM in France, you go to a public school. You do not stay in a state school. They're pukey uniforms. So they all wore uniforms, but actually so did they, but their parents picked them up. They carry briefcases, a minute. And here we were rougher. So they're rougher fighters. They didn't do their homework. Okay? I think I might need a new pen. We were proud of never learning anything except the names of footballers. So they knew. Personnel of rock groups and the lyrics of I'm a Walrus. We were idiots, we were misinformed. How misinformed? How did we understand that we were happily condemning ourselves to being nothing better than motor mechanics? Where can we see that? For Eleanor's crowd, hard words and sophisticated ideas. Were in the air they breathed from birth. Okay? But for us, it could only ever be a second language consciously acquired. Okay? So that means that Karim wants to consciously acquire her language. Okay? Now, next question is, how does Karim feel about his past? Now, that's actually very, very easy. He feels that his past is unimportant. It's not important at all. And that is like so important. Well, actually, there's an understatement there. But his past is not important, okay? So his past isn't important compared to hers. It wasn't as substantial as hers, so he'd thrown it away. Like he never talks about his parents. He never talks about his parents. Okay? Except the only person he does talk about is Charlie. Now, why does he talk about Charlie? It's because Charlie is an international sensation. So he is somebody. So he is somebody. Okay? That is why he'll talk about Charlie. Now, he mentions the Great Dane again, and about him being by that said Great Dane. And you're probably saying, oh no, he mentions the Great Dane again. Oh no. Actually, the Great Dane is a symbol in the Buddha of Suburbia. Why is it a symbol? It is because it is the Great Dane and hairy back, both, they symbolise racism. Okay? And he feels that he's been held back by his family, but B, he's been held back by his origins. That is probably why he mentions at that given point the Great Dane. And you'll notice, you probably haven't noticed this, you probably just laugh every time he mentions the Great Dane. But whenever Kareem talks about the Great Dane, there's often an incident that's just happened, some racist incident where he's suffered from some kind of racism. Okay? So keep that in mind, please. Okay, so what does Eleanor talk about, and what must he change? Write down sentences that refer to this aspect of Kareem. Now, this is why I asked you to watch all those videos. So what does she talk about? She talks about his accent. Okay? She talks about his accent. That is really, really important. So listen, and then said my accent was cute. Okay? What accent? The way you talk. You've got a street voice. You're from South London, so that's how you speak. It's like Cockney, not so raw. It's unusual. It's different from my voice. You can write all this sentence down. It's like Cockney all the way to... It's different to my voice, of course. At that moment, I resolved to lose my accent. I would speak like her. It wasn't difficult. I'd left my world, I had gone into that. Okay? I would speak like her. Okay. So what's this reveal? What's it say about Kareem? Now, if Kareem wants to climb the social ladder, what must he do? He must lose his accent. Okay? So that is so important. If he wants to climb the social ladder, he must lose his accent. Okay? So him building his persona. Okay? I think my phone's ringing. I'll phone it back. Okay? So he wants to become like Eleanor, belong to a higher social class. So how is he defining himself? How is he trying to build a persona? So, as I said, his accent is holding him back. And that is like really important. Because if, as you heard in the videos, this is what I do as well. If you want to, you know, climb the social ladder, if you want to have a better job, you must lose your accent. I'm from a good social class, but he's not. And he knows that his accent is holding him back. Okay? So if he wants to move forward in life, he has to change his accent. If you want to be successful, be someone, speak RP, like Eleanor. So, to be someone, speak RP, like Eleanor. Okay? Especially in the UK, more so in the UK. However, he's happy to do this. It is not a problem. It is not a problem, okay? To do so. But you might think, oh, Kareem's finally made it. He's now part of an even better acting group. No, he's not. He still craves, he says so, he still craves, yearns for, wants adventure and dreams. Okay? So that is really, really important. So he's still on his travels. He's still discovering. He's still on the road to self-discovery. Okay? That is very, very, very important. So he's still building his persona. He's still deciding who he wants to be. So, who he wants to be. That is very, very, very important. His journey isn't over. This obstacle, his accent being an obstacle, that is just one of the obstacles on that journey, okay? This is like a stepping stone, it's one of the stepping stones, okay? Now, do you remember what his epiphany was? Next question. Do you remember what his epiphany was? Now, you're going to have to go back all the way to chapter 1, okay? Go back to chapter 1. So chapter 1. Now he's sitting on the toilet at Ava's. And let me quote. Now he knows what I'm quoted. He thinks about his future and what he wants from life in his future. Mysticism, alcohol, sexual promise, clever people and drugs. Okay? So it would be mysticism, alcohol, sexual promise, clever people, drugs. So that was his epiphany, okay, his revelation. And he seems to have achieved, he seems to have achieved many of these things. I think he's had a lot of alcohol, a lot of sexual promise, and now he's with the clever people. Okay? He's with the clever people. So he's done well. He's done very well for himself on his road to self-discovery. Now, link the passage to the videos we saw earlier on. Well, I think this is actually pretty self-explanatory, but hey. So, Coventry accent and the Cockney accent. What do these two accents show? Now, the Cockney accent and the Coventry accent both show that these are for people who are from the working, or people who speak with a Cockney accent or a Coventry accent are from the working class, which actually Kareem is. From the lower middle class. People of little education. Now, that sound posh. People from the upper class speak with a posh accent, which is called RP. And it shows you're clever, you come from a good family, you have money. Posh accent, RP. That you have money, education, good family. And we can have here little education. Okay? Then accentism. Talking in the UK can reveal a lot about yourself, which isn't the case in other countries. Okay? So class is still omnipresent. A way of saying also about classism. So classism is still omnipresent in the UK. So Kareem is trying to lose his suburban accent. Okay? To lose his suburban accent. I guess it's also a way of losing himself. Okay? Because, so you can hardly read what I'm writing. It says accent. Because if you... it's part of who he is. He's from the suburbs. But what he's trying to do is lose his suburban accent. He's trying to erase his past. And this accent reveals that he is from the lower middle class and hasn't received any higher education. Because, so, accent shows that he is from what's he trying to do now? He's trying to sound like Eleanor. So he can be someone else, be perceived differently, be taken seriously. Okay? So, speak differently, which will enable him to be taken seriously, and climb the social ladder. Because his accent was holding him back, and if he wants to fit in, because that's the whole, find his place in society. Remember, that's what I said about the Bildungsroman. The Bildungsroman says, at the end, it's like finding your place in society. At the moment, he hasn't found his place. and he's found all these things that are holding him back. For example, his accent. Many other things, but for the moment we're focusing on accents. So his accent is holding him back. He cannot fit in. He's still on his path, on his road, on his journey to self-discovery. And if he can change that, if he can change his accent, he'll get closer to becoming who he's meant to be. Okay? Who he's meant to be. Okay? So, that's more or less it for this lesson, I judging by the accent. I hope this video really did help you. You can watch it. Oh God, it's over 1 hour long. Oh no, I've spoken like for 1 hour. Continuously, non-stop. I hope that this will help you. It's a long video. I hope you were able to watch it all. And I hope this will help you. Okay? Now, that's it for this part. I've written what you've got to do. Okay? And I hope you have a nice day. Watch everything, and I will make a second video later on in the week. Okay, bye-bye.